Hello students, welcome to Learner's Planet. Let us continue with the chapter Improvement in Food Resources. So in the earlier session I already explained that what is meant by these food resources and from where we are obtaining them, right? So now knowing the basic requirement, basic needs for these resources, now the point is that how the improvement can be done. So in today's session I'm going to explain you that part. So students, you know that we get food, we obtain our food either from the plants or from the animals, right? And so as to produce these products, the agriculture is followed, right? Agriculture is a branch of science which deals with the cultivation, breeding and management of the production of food material from the plants as well as from the livestock, isn't it? So that practice is actually the agriculture. Now since this agriculture is actually related to both parts, that is the plants as well as animals, so if we consider the improvement, then definitely we need to follow different practices so as to obtain the food from different origins or from the different sources, that is plant and animals, right? So I'm going to explain you one by one that how these agricultural practices could be made, it could be improved so that the production can be increased, right? So first of all I will discuss about the improvement in the crop yield. So what is this crop? Crop is the same type of plant which is grown or which is cultivated at a large scale in the same piece of land, right? So that uniformly we can obtain the product from that field. That is what we mean by the crop. So if we have to increase this production, right, the crop production, then what do you think? Where we should apply the technology, or we should apply the practices so that the production could be increased. So in this case, the improvement is related to the variety of the crop, right? That variety is actually related to the quality, right? The quality of the food material which is obtained from these crops. Then its production, that means the productivity, the amount of food which is obtained, right? That productivity from the given piece of land or the land area, that is related to production, right? And then is the protection. If the whatever produces are there and if they are not well protected, then definitely there is no use of such type of product, right? So here the improvement is done in the three ways, and thus this crop improvement program is shown here, which includes three parts. There are three levels at which the improvement practices are actually applied. The first one is the crop variety improvement. So variety, as I already said, that it is related to the quality of the food material, right? So how this quality could be increased or it could be improved, that is the point now. You know that how the plants are produced, how they are grown. Initially, there are the seeds which are sown into the ground, right, into the soil, and then this growth will take place and the plant will grow and it will further it will produce the different type of food material. So initial point of the agriculture or this crop production is what? The seeds. Seeds are sown into the soil. So the very first point, so as to increase or improve the variety, is related to the selection of the seeds. If the seeds are if they are good, definitely the plantation or the plants which are obtained, they will be better. Besides that, seeds are having the embryos, and these embryos carry the entire information, or it is having all those code which are actually coding for the basic content of the plant, right? So all information is stored in the seeds only. So definitely whatever type of quality we need from the crop, for that we have to look after the seeds, right? And definitely if the seeds or the seeds, they are not having the desirable traits, then of course the quality we want is not achieved. So at this point, initially there is the selection of correct seeds, right, or the desirable seeds, or the seeds having the desirable characters. And besides that, we can also follow the another method by which the desirable traits could be introduced into the seeds, so that when they germinate, that particular character will be expressed in the plants. So selection and the improvement, this is what is related to the crop variety improvement. Now how this is done, we will discuss later. The next part of this program is the crop production improvement, and of course its management. So this crop production, now this is actually related to the growth phase of the plants. Variety, it is related to the initial phase, that is before sowing of the seeds. Now production is related to the growth of these seeds and the plants and the products whatever is obtained. So basically it is related to the nurturing of the plant or nourishing the plant, right? Bringing up of this plant. So how this nurturing is now done, right? For nurturing these plants, definitely facilities should be there. Now facilities related to what? Related to those basic necessities or the requirements which are required for the growth of the plant. For example, the nutrition, then the we can say like irrigation, that is water, isn't it? So basically whatever is the basic requirement so as to grow these plants, that should be provided to the crops. Now of course these things could be fulfilled in three ways. We need three things for nurturing the plants, and that is of course the number one is the finance, because whatever new technology you are applying, right, or whatever for practices we are following, for that we need the money. So farmers, they should be capable enough so as to spend the money, and even if they are not, then the government is providing the loans, and there are many different facilities which are nowadays provided to the farmers. Then the second requirement is the land. A piece of land is required where the fertility is good enough, and even if this fertility is not good, then we should convert it into the fertile land, and that is done by applying different types of manures or fertilizers or micronutrients or macronutrients, whatever is required for the growth of the plant. Then is the technology. Of course, these technologies, the new technologies, are used nowadays so as to nurture the plants. And these techniques, they are related to the different phases of this crop production. Like it may be related to plowing, it may be related to hoeing, harvesting, or irrigation, and so on. So accordingly, the improvement is done. Next is the crop protection improvement. See, the crop whatever is produced, the product whatever is obtained, they are always having a danger, they are always having a risk of getting infected prior to harvesting. There are some disease causing agents, or there are some pest over there in the fields that may damage the crop, isn't it? So that should be protected. Besides that, if the crop is protected on land, further when harvested, they should be stored properly so that the protection is maintained. So this is how the three different fields are there where the the improvement is required. So now let us see that how each type of this improvement is done. So students, as I already said, that this crop variety improvement is based on what? On selecting the crop. Which type of crop? Which can provide us good yield with desirable features. And if these desirable features are not there in these crops, then of course the practices should be followed so as to improve the crop, right? And of course when we are I'm saying that crop is selected, so what is meant by this is that we are going to select the seeds for the production of the crop, right? So the seeds which are more fertile, which are having high germination power, which can produce the which can provide us the good yield. that should be selected. Not only this thing, they should have some specific features, and what these specific features are there for which the improvement program is followed. That is shown here in this flowchart. So the very first thing is the high yield. That means the productivity, right? How much amount of food grains or the crop is produced from the given piece of land, right? That is what is known as the productivity. And of course, everybody is interested in those particular traits or on those particular seeds or the crops which are giving us the high yield. So product yield is the very first thing for which the improvement program is followed. Then comes the quality. So quality is actually related to the content which is present in the particular type of product. For example, the crops are improved according to the particular composition. Let me say, like, if I discuss here about the pulses, then pulses, they are rich in protein, isn't it? We include these pulses in our diet for the protein content. So these particular pulses, they should have the high proteins. So this is how the quality is considered. If we consider about the wheat, then what is to be considered? The baking quality. Let me say, for example, other thing is like oil seeds. So for these oil seeds, what is considered? The oil content, right? The oil that can be extracted from the seeds. So likewise, the quality is to be maintained, and the particular seeds which are having the specific characters, they are selected, or these type of contents can be increased by the different artificial methods also, right? And that, of course, I'm going to discuss further later on. The another aim is the resistance towards the biotic and the abiotic stresses. Now these plants, whatever is grown in the particular land, they should have good tolerance power towards the stress factors. Now stress factors, suppose let me say, if there are some disease causing agents in particular area, so the species should be selected here. Species of plants, it should be selected here which is resistant to these particular agents. Got my point? So this is how the plants having high tolerance power should be selected. Not only for these agents like disease causing agents, even the physical or the chemical conditions, they affect the productivity of the crop. So that could be for that, of course, the crop or the seed should be selected that are having the high tolerance power towards such type of abiotic factors. And what these abiotic factors could be, like the temperature, right? Then water content, then the salt concentration in the soil, acidity. So all these factors, they are of course affecting the growth of the plants, and thus the seeds should be selected which are more tolerant towards these things. Then the next thing is, those plants are selected which are having the short life cycle, right? Short life cycle, so that they can complete their particular life cycle round in a short duration, and due to this, multiple cycles could be followed in the same season in the same piece of land. Harvesting could be done twice or thrice in the particular area if the crop is having the short life cycle. So those crops or the seeds should be selected which are having this short duration of the life cycle. Then comes the adaptation. These plants, they should have wide adaptability to the fluctuating conditions. See, each crop is having a particular type of requirement for their growth. And in the countries like India, of course, they are having varied type of climatic conditions in different regions, in different zones, right? So those particular crops should be selected which can be grown in different set of environmental conditions, right? They should be able to adapt to these fluctuating conditions, and if this quality is there, the production can be increased. Then comes the agronomic characteristics. Now these agronomic characteristics are related to the specific features. For example, height in the case of some species. Like tall height is preferable in the case of fodder, right? Fodder plants, because they are required, they are cultivated for which purpose? For the fiber content. So if there is a tall height, there is a profuse branching in these plants, definitely the fiber content is going to increase. Whereas on the other hand, in the case of like let us say like pulses or the cereals, right? Over there we need a short height but more productivity of the food grains, right? Now why this short height is required in these plants? The reason behind that is because if the height is short, then the absorption will be better. These plants, they absorb the material from the soil and they are transferring it to the higher parts of the plant, so that absorption will be better if the height is short. And secondly, the nutrient requirement will also be decreased. So of course this production can be increased if such type of traits are selected in these particular seeds. Now the thing is how this improvement is possible. Right. We are simply saying that it should be done, but how? Right. So initially, the very first method I told you earlier is the selection. So right selection of seeds is, of course, a very essential step. Now, further improvement, if it is required in artificial terms, then the method followed is hybridization, or it is also known as the crossbreeding. And the another one is the genetic manipulation, that is the one which is followed with the help of recombinant DNA technology. So let me explain you how it is done. So the different methods of crop variety improvements, what are they? Hybridization and genetic manipulation. Hybridization, it is actually related to the crossbreeding between two plants. See how the plants are reproducing. It is done either by the self-pollination process or by the cross-pollination, isn't it? So these are the natural ways that how the plants are growing, they're reproducing and producing the new organisms. Now the thing is, when the variety improvement programs are followed, the cross-pollination or the cross-breeding is followed in an artificial manner. Right. In that case, what is basically done? The two plants are selected which are having the desirable traits. And when these are allowed to crossbreed with each other, a new hybrid plant is produced. So of course the new plant which is produced, it will inherit the characters which are present in both the parent plants. So this is how these types of these hybridization techniques are followed. I will show you one picture so that it will be more clear. So here is the picture. In this case, there are two plants which are selected for the process of hybridization or for the crossbreeding, right? So which type of plant is selected? In this plant one, there are two desirable characters. Let us say A and B. There are any two characters which are present in this particular plant, right? And another plant is there which is having desirable characters, let us say C and D, isn't it? Now these characters are lacking in the first species or the first plant, and these AB is lacking in the another one. So if we are interested in all these four characters, what we have to do? We are supposed to produce both these plants separately in the separate piece of land, isn't it? And of course the time will be required for that also. So if we want all these characters to be present in the same plant, then what should be done? Then in that case, these plants, they should be crossbred. When this cross-pollination is done, what will happen? The pollens of one of the plant is actually transferred over the another one, right? Over the anthers of the second plant or the flowers of the second plant, and then the fertilization will take place. Of course, it will take place. Definitely, actually depends upon the compatibility of all both these plants, but if the experiments are to be conducted. So if they are compatible enough, then the fertilization will take place and the seeds will be developed in that new plant, in that plant. And now the new plants which will be grown from these seeds obtained from this hybrid plant, they will be having all these four characters together. This is of course not a one day process. It takes time and there must maybe some failures also. So we need to have the patience in these type of experiments. Now let me give you one example, a typical example for this hybridization. Let us say there are two different varieties of wheat. Okay, wheat, let us say one of the variety is having high resistance towards the, let us say, some abiotic stress. Okay, and there is a second variety which is having low resistance, but it is having high productivity. In the first variety of the wheat, it is having high resistance but the low productivity. So even if the resistance is high, what is the need? What is the benefit of it? Isn't it? They are not going to produce. The product yield is not good from that crop. Isn't it? On the other hand, from where we can get the high product or high product yield, they are less resistant. So, of course, it is going to be damaged. So the new hybrid plant could be produced by crossbreeding these two varieties of the plants of the wheat. So what will happen when such type of wheat plants are interbred? Of course, the new hybrid plant which is obtained here, it will inherit the characteristic from each plant. So the new species will be the new hybrid plant which is produced. It will have the characteristics which is high resistance, right, and which is having the high productivity. On the other hand, the another fact is also possible, like they may the new hybrid plant which is produced, it may have the low least resistance and the low productivity. So that should not be selected. So at this stage, when the hybrids have been obtained, now the point is the selection procedures should be followed. So which type of hybrid plants we have to select now? The one which has inherited the character high resistance and the high productivity. So such plants are selected and the seeds are desired. These seeds are selected and they are supplied for the crop production. So this is how this hybridization technique is followed. Now this hybridization, it can be done in different ways. That means in between, it can be done between different types of plants. And what are they? So in this case, the first type is the intervarietal. Intervarietal means what? The same type of plant is chosen for the hybridization, but they are having different varieties. Right? So this type of hybridization in which the two plants with different varieties are crossbred is known as the intervarietal hybridization. The second is done between the plants from different genus, right? And I hope you understand what is this genus. You have studied that in the diversity in living organisms. Fine. So these organisms or these plants from different genus, they can be interbred. The third type is the interspecific. So in this case, what is done? The different species are allowed to crossbred. You remember what are these species? Species are those living organisms which can perpetuate with each other, right? And they can interbred with each other. They are able to reproduce. So all these organisms, they are known as the species. But here, when hybridization is considered, then the plants from different species are selected and they are allowed to cross-pollinate in the artificial manner. So this is how the improvement is followed by the hybridization technique. The next type, the most modern technique of crop variety improvement is the genetic manipulation. Genetic manipulation, as the name is suggesting, some changes in the genetic structure of a plant is done in this particular technique. So in short, it means that introduction of a gene which is having the code for the desirable character. right? So such type of desirable gene is introduced in the plants through different ways, of course. So when this new gene has been incorporated into these living plants, what will happen? It is going to be expressed in these plants now. So the desirable character is now incorporated. This is how the genetic manipulation is actually done. This is just in general I have told you, isn't it? One more thing. Such plants in which the new genes have been introduced, such type of plants or the organisms, they are known as the transgenic plants, or they are known as the genetically modified organisms. So the point is that how is it possible? What should be done if the new gene is to be introduced in a particular plant? I will show you one picture. I will show you some steps in very short so that. So in this picture, it is showing the transfer of bacterial gene into the plants. How it is done? Let me explain you. Well, initially I said that the selection is required, right? Whatever desirable character we want to introduce in the plant, that has to be selected. And let us say if it is present in the bacteria, then these bacteria, they are cultured and the gene is isolated. So the very first step is the selection of the desirable genes, and then the isolation, the DNA extraction and the isolation of the desirable genes. Suppose this entire DNA has been extracted from the bacteria. Now in this entire chromosome or in the entire DNA, we need only a small part, a gene which is coding for the desirable character, isn't it? So we have to cut this particular gene, and that is done with the help of various enzymes and different methods, right? So they help in the in cutting these particular genes, and they help in the isolation of the genes here. Now these isolated genes, they are cloned, right? They are designed in these particular new DNA, they are introduced here, and such is the chromosome, or it is a DNA or a vector which can be introduced into the plant cell. So the next step is the transformation of these cloned genes into the plant cells. Further, these plant cells, they are grown in the tissue culture labs, right? And then the new plants are developed from these particular plants. From these tissues. And then they are allowed to breed in the natural way. So this is one of the way. Other way of introducing the new genes into the plants is also done by the physical method or by the chemical method. So for that, the new genes, they are actually introduced by injecting them directly into the plants, right, or into the plant cells and growing them by the tissue culture techniques. Further, it can be done by using the specific bacteria, right, which can actually infect these particular plants. So they will infect these plants and they will introduce the gene into the plant cells. And of course, the genes are then they are introduced into the plant, so they are able to express over there. So this is how there are different methods of introducing the genes into the plants. So this is all about the improvement of the variety of the crop. Next step to increase the production is what? Which is The next step is the increase in the production, right? And for that, how the improvement techniques are followed, that we will discuss in the next session. So till then, thank you so much. Have a nice day. Goodbye.